Marcus Reed's world turned upside down when his wife died during childbirth 3 years ago, leaving him alone with their newborn daughter Olivia and a mountain of medical bills. The 40-year-old carpenter had been working twice as hard since then, taking any job he could find to make ends meet while ensuring his little girl had everything she needed. Tonight, he was particularly exhausted, having spent 12 hours renovating an old house before picking Olivia up from his neighbor's place where she stayed during the day. "Daddy, I'm hungry," Olivia whined as they walked through the grocery store, her tiny hand gripping his calloused one. "I know, sweetheart. We'll get dinner soon," Marcus promised, carefully checking prices on every item he put in his cart. His bank account was nearly empty until his next paycheck, but he'd never let his daughter go hungry. As they turned into the produce aisle, Marcus noticed a commotion near the checkout counters. A woman with honey blonde hair was backing away from a tall, well-dressed man who was gripping her arm. Even from a distance, Marcus could see the fear on her face. "Let go of me, Derek," the woman said, her voice carrying through the store. "I've told you it's over." "We're not finished talking," the man hissed, pulling her closer. Marcus hesitated for only a moment. He knew he should mind his own business, but something about the woman's frightened expression triggered a protective instinct he couldn't ignore. He looked down at Olivia. "Stay right by the cart, princess. Don't move an inch, okay?" Olivia nodded solemnly, and Marcus walked quickly toward the pair. "Excuse me," he said, approaching them with a calm he didn't feel. "Is everything okay here?" The woman, beautiful, Marcus couldn't help noticing, with striking green eyes, looked at him with a mixture of surprise and relief. "No, it's not," she said. "This man won't leave me alone." The well-dressed man, Derek, turned toward Marcus with contempt. "This is between me and my fiancé. Mind your own business." "Ex-fiancé," the woman corrected firmly. "We've been done for months, Derek." Marcus stepped closer, acutely aware that his worn jeans and faded t-shirt were a stark contrast to Derek's expensive suit. "The lady doesn't want to talk to you. I think you should go." Derek laughed, looking Marcus up and down. "And who's going to make me? You." He released the woman's arm, only to step threateningly toward Marcus. "Do you have any idea who I am?" Marcus didn't flinch. "Don't really care. All I know is you're harassing someone who's asked you to stop." By now, a small crowd had gathered, including a store employee who was speaking quietly into a phone, presumably calling security or the police. Derek's face reddened with anger. "Lydia, tell this. Nobody. To get lost so we can finish our conversation." Lydia, so that was her name, moved to stand beside Marcus. "There's nothing left to say, Derek. Please leave before this gets worse." Derek's eyes narrowed as he looked between them. For a moment, Marcus thought he might throw a punch, but instead, the man straightened his expensive jacket. "This isn't over," he said to Lydia before turning to Marcus. "And you just made a very serious mistake." As Derek stormed out of the store, Marcus let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He turned to Lydia, who was rubbing her arm where Derek had grabbed her. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Thanks to you," she said with a genuine smile that lit up her whole face. "I'm Lydia Donovan. Thank you for stepping in," Marcus Reed, and it was nothing. He was interrupted by a small voice behind him. "Daddy, you said don't move, so I didn't." Olivia announced proudly, having disobeyed him just enough to inch her way over to the scene. Marcus scooped his daughter up. "This is my daughter, Olivia," he said, embarrassed at being caught in the middle of a confrontation with his child present. Lydia's smile softened as she looked at Olivia. "Hello there, you have a very brave daddy, don't you?" Olivia nodded enthusiastically. "The bravest. Are you okay, lady? That man looked mean." "I'm fine now, sweetheart," Lydia assured her. She turned back to Marcus. "I'd like to thank you properly. Could I buy you both dinner?" Marcus shook his head immediately. "That's really not necessary. Anyone would have done the same." "But they didn't," Lydia pointed out. "You did. And I'm standing here offering to buy a hamburger for a little girl who just announced she's hungry. Are you really going to say no to that face?" Marcus looked at his daughter, who was now giving him her best pleading expression, complete with wide eyes and pouty lip, a look he could rarely resist. He sighed in defeat. "One condition," he said. "We still need to finish our shopping first. It's not much, but—" "I'll help," Lydia offered, falling into step beside them as they returned to Marcus's abandoned cart. I haven't finished my shopping either. As they moved through the store together, Marcus couldn't help but notice how easily Lydia chatted with Olivia, asking her about her favorite colors and animals with genuine interest. She was dressed simply in jeans and a blouse, but there was something elegant about her that suggested she came from a different world than his. At the checkout, Marcus carefully counted out his cash to pay for his modest groceries, aware that Lydia had several more items in her basket. When the cashier announced his total, he realized he was $5 short. I'll have to put back the ice cream, he said, embarrassed. I've got it, Lydia said quickly, pulling out a credit card before Marcus could protest. You don't have to, I insist, she said firmly. Consider it part of my thank you. Marcus reluctantly accepted, promising himself he would find a way to repay her kindness. They agreed to meet at a nearby family restaurant after putting their groceries in their respective cars. Marcus was shocked when Lydia pulled away in a modest sedan, not the luxury vehicle he had expected. As he secured Olivia in her car seat, he wondered what he was getting himself into. The restaurant was busy but not crowded. As they settled into a booth, Olivia immediately began coloring on the kids' menu, while Marcus tried not to feel self-conscious about his worn clothes and the grease still under his fingernails from work. So, Marcus Reed, what do you do when you're not rescuing damsels in distress at grocery stores? Lydia asked with a smile. I'm a carpenter, he replied. I do everything from small repairs to full house renovations. That sounds fascinating, she said, and to his surprise, she seemed genuinely interested. You must be very skilled, Marcus shrugged. I'm good with my hands, it pays the bills, mostly. And Olivia's mother? Lydia asked carefully, Marcus's expression sobered. She passed away during childbirth. It's been just Olivia and me ever since. Lydia's eyes filled with sympathy. I'm so sorry, that must be incredibly difficult, we manage, Marcus said, ruffling Olivia's hair affectionately. What about you? What do you do? A strange look crossed Lydia's face. I'm in finance, she said after a moment, investment management, and that guy Derek, Lydia sighed. My ex-fiancé. We broke up 3 months ago after I discovered he was more interested in my career connections than in me. He hasn't taken it well. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of their food. Marcus watched as Lydia helped Olivia cut her chicken nuggets into smaller pieces with a natural ease that suggested she was good with children. As they ate, Marcus found himself increasingly drawn to Lydia. She was smart and funny, and she listened intently when he spoke. By the time they were finishing their meals, Olivia had climbed into Lydia's lap and was showing her how to draw a proper unicorn. You're really good with her, Marcus observed. She makes it easy, Lydia replied, helping Olivia color a rainbow-striped mane. She's wonderful. When the check came, Lydia grabbed it before Marcus could. This is my treat, remember? Marcus reluctantly agreed but insisted on leaving the tip. As they walked to the parking lot, Olivia yawning in his arms, he found himself reluctant for the evening to end. I'd like to see you again, he said suddenly, surprising himself with his boldness. If you'd like to, that is. Lydia's smile was warm. I'd like that very much. They exchanged phone numbers, and Marcus found himself grinning like a teenager as he drove home. It had been a long time since he'd felt such an immediate connection with someone. The next morning, Marcus received a text from Lydia asking if he and Olivia would like to join her at the park that afternoon. He agreed eagerly, and by noon, they were meeting her at the playground. Lydia was sitting on a bench, feeding ducks when they arrived. She wore simple jeans and a t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, looking far more relaxed than she had the previous evening. Lydia, Olivia squealed, running toward her. Marcus smiled, following at a more measured pace. The afternoon passed pleasantly, with Olivia alternating between playing on the equipment and joining the adults on their bench. Marcus learned that Lydia had grown up in the same state, but had traveled extensively for work. She was intelligent and well-spoken, but never made Marcus feel inferior despite his more modest education. As the sun began to set, Lydia suggested they grab pizza for dinner. Marcus initially hesitated, concerned about the expense, but Lydia insisted it would be her treat again. "You can't keep buying us meals," Marcus protested as they sat in the pizzeria. "Why not?" Lydia asked. "I enjoy your company, both of you, because it makes me feel like—" Marcus paused, searching for the right words, "like there's an imbalance." Lydia studied him thoughtfully. "Would it make you feel better if I told you I needed some carpentry work done? You could help me with that and we'll call it even." Marcus brightened. "Actually, yes. What kind of work?" "I recently bought a house that needs some renovations," she explained. "Nothing major, but I could use a professional opinion." They agreed that Marcus would visit her house the following weekend to assess the work. Throughout the week, they texted regularly, and Marcus found himself increasingly thinking about Lydia during his workday. There was something special about her, though he couldn't quite put his finger on what it was. Saturday morning arrived, and Marcus loaded Olivia into his truck. He had arranged for his neighbor to watch her after he dropped her off at Lydia's house, giving him time to properly evaluate the renovation needs. As he followed the GPS directions, Marcus became increasingly confused. The neighborhoods were getting progressively nicer, with larger houses and manicured lawns. Finally, the navigation announced he had arrived at his destination, and Marcus stared in disbelief at the imposing house before him. It wasn't a mansion, but it was certainly the largest home on the street, with a circular driveway and beautiful landscaping. Marcus double-checked the address, certain there had been a mistake. Before he could reconsider, the front door opened and Lydia emerged, waving at them with a bright smile. She was dressed casually in shorts and a t-shirt, but the contrast between her and her surroundings was jarring. "You made it," she called as Marcus parked his truck. Olivia unbuckled herself and ran to Lydia for a hug while Marcus approached more slowly, taking in the property. "This is your house?" he asked incredulously. Lydia nodded, suddenly looking nervous. "I just bought it a month ago. Do you like it?" "It's beautiful," Marcus admitted. "But I thought you said it needed renovations." "It does," Lydia assured him, leading them inside. "The kitchen is outdated and I'd like to open up the living room more. Plus, there's a sunroom I'd love to convert into a proper office." As Lydia gave them a tour, Marcus's suspicions grew. The house was immaculate and, while not brand new, certainly didn't require urgent renovations. The outdated kitchen had high-end appliances that looked barely used, and the sunroom was a beautiful space that many homeowners would covet as is. After the tour, Lydia suggested Olivia might enjoy playing in the backyard, where she had, surprisingly, set up a small playground complete with a swing set and sandbox. "When did you install this?" Marcus asked as Olivia raced toward the swings. "Yesterday," Lydia admitted. "I thought she might like it." Marcus frowned. "Lydia, what's going on? This house doesn't need serious renovations, and you just installed playground equipment for my daughter. I'm starting to feel like there's something you're not telling me." Lydia sighed, gesturing for him to sit beside her on the patio. "You're right, I haven't been entirely honest with you." Marcus tensed, preparing himself for the worst. Was she married? Was this not even her house? "I'm not just in finance," Lydia began. "I own Donovan Investment Group. It's one of the largest private investment firms in the region." Marcus stared at her. "You're wealthy?" Lydia nodded, looking uncomfortable. "Very. That's part of why Derek won't leave me alone. He's not just an ex, he's a business competitor who thought marrying me would give him access to my client list and family connections." Marcus stood up, feeling a strange mixture of emotions. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because people treat me differently when they know," she said quietly. "Men either want me for my money or feel intimidated by it. I liked how you saw me as just Lydia, not Lydia Donovan, CEO and heiress." Marcus ran a hand through his hair, processing this information. "So the dinner, the park, all of this, was it some kind of charity?" "The poor carpenter and his daughter make a nice project." Lydia stood up, her expression hurt. "No, Marcus, I genuinely enjoy spending time with you and Olivia. You're kind and brave and honest qualities that are rare in my world. When you stood up to Derek in that store, you weren't trying to impress anyone. You were just being a good man." Marcus looked toward Olivia, happily playing on the swings, oblivious to the tension between the adults. "I don't know what to think," he admitted. "This is a lot to take in." "I understand," Lydia said. And if you want to walk away, I won't stop you, but I hope you'll give me a chance to prove that my feelings for you are real. Marcus studied her face, seeing sincerity in her eyes. I need some time, he said finally. This changes things. Lydia nodded, visibly disappointed but understanding. Of course. After an awkward goodbye, Marcus collected Olivia, who was reluctant to leave the playground, and drove home in silence, his mind racing with questions and doubts. For the next week, Marcus threw himself into his work, trying to make sense of his feelings for Lydia. He missed her texts and calls, but couldn't bring himself to respond. How could a relationship between them possibly work? Their worlds were too different. Late Friday night, as he was putting Olivia to bed, his phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Is this Marcus Reed?" a female voice asked when he answered. "Yes, who's this? My name is Sarah. I'm Lydia Donovan's assistant. I'm calling because there's been an incident. Miss Donovan asked me to contact you." Marcus's heart raced. "What happened? Is she okay?" Derek Blackwell showed up at her home tonight, intoxicated and threatening. "The police have been called, but she asked specifically for you." Without hesitation, Marcus called his neighbor, who agreed to come stay with Olivia. Within minutes, he was in his truck, driving toward Lydia's house, his earlier doubts forgotten in the face of her potential danger. When he arrived, 2 police cars were parked in the circular driveway. An officer stopped him at the door, but Lydia appeared behind him. "It's okay, officer. I asked him to come." Lydia looked shaken, her face pale and a small cut visible on her cheek. Marcus immediately went to her, fighting the urge to pull her into his arms. "What happened?" he asked. "Derek showed up drunk, demanding to talk," she explained as they moved into the living room. "When I refused to let him in, he forced his way inside. He was ranting about how I'd ruined his reputation, how I owed him. When I threatened to call the police, he grabbed me." Marcus clenched his fists, anger surging through him. "Did he do that?" he asked, nodding toward the cut on her cheek. Lydia nodded. "His ring caught me when I pulled away. That's when I managed to trigger my security alarm. He ran before the police arrived, but they found him a few blocks away." "Miss Donovan," a police officer interrupted, "we've arrested Mr. Blackwell. He'll be charged with breaking and entering, assault, and violating the restraining order. Given his prior warnings, he'll likely be held without bail until his hearing." After giving her statement and signing some paperwork, the police finally left. In the sudden quiet, Lydia seemed to deflate, sinking onto her couch with exhaustion. "I'm sorry to drag you into this," she said softly. I needed someone I trusted." Marcus sat beside her, taking her hand. "I'm glad you called. I've been an idiot this past week, Lydia." "No, you haven't," she disagreed. "I should have been honest from the start." "Why did you pick me?" Marcus asked suddenly. "In that grocery store, you could have asked anyone for help. Why trust a stranger?" Lydia looked up at him, her green eyes serious. "Because when I looked at you, I saw kindness and strength. Not physical strength, though you have that too, but the kind of strength that comes from surviving hardship." Marcus thought about the years since his wife's death, the struggle to raise Olivia alone while drowning in debt, the exhaustion and loneliness. "I'm still not sure how this works," he admitted. "You and me, we come from different worlds." "Do we?" Lydia asked. "Because I see 2 people who value honesty, who put others first, who know what it means to be hurt and still find the courage to trust again." Without thinking, Marcus reached out to gently touch the cut on her cheek. Lydia leaned into his touch, and before he knew what was happening, they were kissing a gentle, tentative kiss that quickly deepened into something more urgent. When they finally pulled apart, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. "I should go," he whispered. "My neighbor is with Olivia." "Stay," Lydia said. "Not like that. I just don't want to be alone tonight." Marcus nodded, sending a quick text to his neighbor explaining the situation. They spent the night talking, really talking about their lives and fears and hopes. Lydia told him about growing up wealthy but lonely, about the pressure of taking over her father's business, about the string of relationships with men who valued her bank account more than her heart. Marcus shared his struggles as a single father, the grief of losing his wife, the financial hardships that kept him awake at night, and his dreams of one day starting his own construction company. By morning, something had shifted between them. The barriers of class and wealth that had seemed so insurmountable now felt less important than the connection they had found. In the weeks that followed, they fell into a comfortable rhythm. Marcus still worked his regular carpentry jobs, but also began helping Lydia with genuine renovations to her house, not because she needed them, but because they enjoyed creating something together. Olivia blossomed under Lydia's attention, and Marcus found himself falling deeper in love with both his daughter and the remarkable woman who had unexpectedly entered their lives. 3 months after their first meeting in the grocery store, Lydia invited Marcus and Olivia to dinner at her house. When they arrived, the table was set elegantly with candles and flowers. Even Olivia's place had a small bouquet beside it. "What's the occasion?" Marcus asked as Lydia greeted them with kisses. "I have a proposition for you," she said mysteriously. Throughout dinner, Lydia was visibly nervous, making Marcus increasingly curious. Finally, after they had finished eating, she handed him a large envelope. "What's this?" he asked. "Open it," she urged. Inside was a business plan for Reed Construction, complete with financial projections, marketing strategies, and a list of potential clients, many from Lydia's extensive business network. "I don't understand," Marcus said, flipping through the pages. "You told me you've always wanted to start your own construction company," Lydia explained. "This is a roadmap to make it happen. I've secured a small business loan in your name, not from my company, from a regular bank. They were impressed with your experience and credit history." Marcus was stunned. "You did all this for me," Lydia nodded. "I believe in you, Marcus. You're talented and hardworking. All you needed was a chance." "But why? I mean, you could just—" He trailed off, not wanting to suggest she could simply give him the money. "Because I know you," Lydia said, taking his hand. "You don't want handouts. You want to build something yourself, something you can be proud of. This is just opening a door. You'll walk through it on your own." Marcus was overwhelmed with emotion. No one had ever believed in him like this, not since his wife. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll consider it," Lydia replied. "And there's something else." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Marcus's eyes widened. "Lydia, this isn't a proposal," she said quickly, opening the box to reveal a key. "It's an invitation. I want you and Olivia to move in with me. Not because you need a place to stay or because I'm trying to solve your problems, but because I love waking up to your voice on the phone and going to sleep knowing I'll see you tomorrow. Because my house feels empty when you're not in it. Because I love you, Marcus Reed." Tears welled in Marcus's eyes. "I love you too," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "But are you sure? I come with a lot of baggage and not just emotional." "I've never been more sure of anything," Lydia said firmly, "and as for baggage, we all have it. The question is whether we want to carry it alone or together." Olivia, who had been unusually quiet throughout this exchange, suddenly piped up. "Does this mean Lydia will be my new mommy?" The adults exchanged a look, and Lydia knelt to Olivia's level. "Would you like that, sweetheart?" "Because I would love to be your mom if you'll have me." Olivia threw her arms around Lydia's neck. "Yes, Daddy smiles all the time now because of you." Marcus laughed, joining them on the floor. "She's not wrong." 6 months later, on a perfect spring day, Marcus stood in the garden of Lydia's now their home, surrounded by friends and family. Reed Construction was thriving, with more projects than he could handle alone, requiring him to hire 3 additional carpenters. The company specialized in high-end renovations, with a portion of profits going to a foundation that provided housing assistance to single parents. As the music began, Marcus watched Olivia walk down the makeshift aisle, tossing flower petals with enthusiastic abandon. And then Lydia appeared, radiant in a simple white dress, carrying not a bouquet but a framed photo of Marcus's late wife. When Lydia reached him, she carefully placed the photo on a small table beside them. "So she can be here too," she whispered. Marcus took Lydia's hands, overwhelmed by the journey that had brought them to this moment. From a chance encounter in a grocery store to a partnership built on respect, trust, and love. "I never expected you," he said softly as they exchanged vows. "But now I can't imagine my life without you." Lydia smiled through tears of happiness. "Sometimes the best things happen when we're not looking for them. I went to buy groceries and found a family instead." As they sealed their vows with a kiss, Marcus knew that wealth wasn't measured in bank accounts or property. True richness was in the love they had found together, a love born of courage, honesty, and the willingness to see beyond appearances to the heart beneath. And as they celebrated with their guests, Marcus held both Olivia and Lydia close, marveling at how a single moment of courage in a grocery store had changed the course of their lives forever. "What are you thinking?" Lydia asked, noticing his reflective expression. "That I'm the richest man in the world," Marcus replied, kissing her again as Olivia giggled between them. "And it has nothing to do with money." Lydia smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "We're both rich in the ways that matter most." As the sun set on their wedding day, casting a golden glow over their new beginning, Marcus knew that the greatest courage wasn't in confronting an aggressive ex in a grocery store, it was in opening his heart to love again, in believing that happiness was possible even after loss, and in trusting that sometimes the most unlikely encounters could lead to the most beautiful destinations.